Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Well, I wasn't supposed to come here, but kind of my team asked me to come and be a cameo, and I'll try to be very short and brief about the kind of opening up this spot live sessions. Google. Well, this morning, you guys were in the keynote, and we had a kind of 3 new IoT products announcements, and it actually shows kind of insight on what Google is really actually doing and the vision or strategy that we're taking. The interest we are seeing in the field that a lot of the customers having the IoT the problems and applications, and we see this is an opportunity because it's actually where a lot of data being generated, and Google is essentially a data company, and our mission is to organize world data, and so. And that is the kind of we see as this an area where our Google strength in in AI and big data, and then also a lot of this the analytics solutions, and those things can actually be a big instrument and for a lot of our customers, and also providing the access to organize this data and access to a lot of them. Our key strategy, as you probably actually guessed, is really really AI first, and bringing AI as a really to front and center of everything. And so the announcement that we had was about the Edge TPU. Is a custom hardware accelerator for the running TensorFlow Lite model, and then that's actually really optimized for the performance per dollar and performance per power consumption, and actually gives you it kind of really enables a lot of applications. You can imagine it's when this TPU can combined with microcontroller that actually make running some processing and doing an input and output, and combined with the like a security chip that actually provide the root of trust and then also encryptions, and that actually really can actually be very disruptive in the market, and creating new opportunities, like making everything in the world really intelligent, and providing brain at a very low cost and with very high power efficiency, and without compromising the performance. And that's kind of really a small peek into what we're doing, but we are building really the whole end-to-end story of the cloud infrastructure for IoT, and then also the edge, and we're doing this not just by ourselves. We're actually in partnership with many partners, and there are certain areas that Google can do a good job, and because we know our algorithms and we know how to optimize for them. And then we also make those, the solutions actually available to our partners for them actually to make the product out of it. Also, we also recommend our partners to our customers, and vice versa. So actually, we drive on this ecosystem with the partners, and as well as our own technology innovations, and really pulling our own weight as a Google. So today we have a really beautiful, session, and a lot of good information and more detailed information about Google's strategy on the IoT intelligence and security, and we have a good set of customers going to speak at the panel, and so I'm very excited to have all of you, and then and without much due delay, I'm going to open it up to the next speaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Injong. So last session of the day, so thank you for being here. How excited are we about IoT? There were 17 sessions, 17 sessions on IoT, a big keynote announcement, a lot of good news. I'm really excited to be here and talk about our vision for IoT. I'm Anthony Passmart. I head the product management team for our Cloud IoT offering, and really excited to be here. So we all know we're living in a connected world. There's really no surprise now that IoT is real. What's really changed is that I could talk about the billions of devices that are going to be connected, but the reality is we're moving from connectivity to intelligence. Because without real intelligence, without real insights or actionable insights on the data that's generated by those devices, it's really hard to get a real return on investment. So intelligence is key to those investments. And the problem is those devices are generating a huge amount of data. And when we're looking at how much data that is, an IDC study said that in 2025, there's going to be about 40 billion zettabyte of data generated by IoT devices. And most of it is actually real time. And 40 zettabyte of data is about, 40 billion petabyte of data, if I'm not mistaken. That's a fairly sizable amount of data. But the problem is that with that much data, how do you get insight of the data? How do you analyze that data to really make meaningful decisions? It's really about, all that data and all that insight is really about connecting devices with application and people in a seamless way, in a non-disruptive way. It's really that data that's the glue between all those pieces of the puzzle, and we're trying to solve here. Oops, going the wrong way. So Google has been in the IoT for quite some time, especially working with intelligence on devices. So intelligence in the thermostat, intelligence in the car, intelligence in how you interact with your home devices, with a home gateway. And we've really learned from all those experiences, internal experiences, and brought last year a new platform called IoT Core, Cloud IoT Core. That's Cloud IoT Core is a managed service. It's available in your console today if you go to your GCP console. It is a managed service. You don't have to configure it. It scales up and down for you. It will allow you to connect millions of devices securely to the cloud very easily, from a little POC of a few devices to millions of devices with no issues. We're really trying to productize IoT Core the same way, bring that innovation to the public, to our customers, the same way we did with big data tools in the past. Like, you've seen Dremel, Hadoop, HBase, came from internal projects that came out and were delivered to our customers. So a little bit of that same philosophy here for IoT. We've seen great adoption since our launch. I mean, some great customers, you'll hear about smart parking. Aker BP as well will be on stage. So we've seen that traction of customers really transforming their business with IoT, really finding new business model, finding efficiencies, finding optimization everywhere they can. So it's all about operational insights, it's all about business processes and managing their assets, transforming their business with IoT. And it's talking to those customers, we're really looking at how we're going forward. So talking about customers, I would like to bring on stage Aker BP and Charlton from Aker BP, Charlton Ness, who's been using the platform. So Aker BP is an oil and gas company based out of Norway, and they've been using some of the platform, the GCP platform, through a partner called Cognite, and they're doing predictive maintenance and all that. But Charlton, tell us more about Aker BP.
Thank you, Anthony. Aker BP is an upstream oil and gas company based in Norway. We are the fourth biggest company listed on the Norwegian Stock Exchange, so big in a Norwegian scale. Just short of 2,000 employees and have a daily production of a bit more than 150,000 barrels of oil. The Aker BP, as we know it today, is the result of a merger of a small Norwegian company called the Norske, with a very dynamic culture, and also the big enterprise BP side, BP is asset in Norway.
It's a pretty impressive growth for a year and a half company.
Yeah, we are quite.
So what are kind of the key challenges that Aker BP is facing, and how is IoT helping with those challenges?
I think Aker BP have the same challenges as a lot of the upstream oil and gas companies. On the top, like we are an industry that's quite heavy, and we have the potential to have quite a bit of impact on the environment. Yeah. So I would say HSE, or really safety and environment, is really always on top. So that's something that we really like to use digital for. Yeah. And of course, profitability. That's driving down cost and increase production.
So, so how is it helping? Like, how is IoT helping with those?
I think they're in several different areas, and I think actually one of the things that we see quite good results from is actually very simple. It's just that based on the work that Cognite is doing, they are extracting a lot of data. We are pulling up to 1 million data points a second into our Google store. And based on these data, when we get them contextualized in the right way and push it back to the operators out on the platforms, that really helps driving better decisions, not really being very advanced. Of course, also predictive maintenance, predicting events is very important. And I think also these data really drives opportunities within kind of moving people out of dangerous zones and also moving over to a kind of unmanned platform. That's something we are kind of leading on also in Norway.
Oh, that's great. And anything else you'd like to add about your usage of GCP platform? Anything?
Yeah, I think like we are really impressed of the speed of the GCP platform. And I think also as an industry, we are kind of, unfortunately, a bit slow movers. And I think also the work that we are doing with Google really helps us moving faster. I think that's really good. A benefit.
Great. Well, Jordan, thank you very much. Thank you for your trust in the platform. We're looking forward to innovate. So fantastic use case, with predictive maintenance, everything. We really love to work with Aker BP. So as we're looking now to the future and a little bit of our vision around IoT, really looking at IoT through 4 main pillars. One is around intelligence everywhere. You've seen this morning, we announced our Edge strategy. This is really about expanding all the AI and ML capabilities down closer to where it's needed. Serverless scalability, I talked a little bit about Cloud IoT Core and how Cloud IoT Core is serverless and scalable. We're really trying to make that across the entire value chain of our offering. Security, always #1 priority for us. And security in IoT is actually complicated. There's a lot of pieces that we have to deal with. It's from the manufacturing process to the boot of a device, to the communication, to the backend services. So we'll talk about that. And obviously our ecosystem of partners. IoT is not a game you play alone. You have to play with partners, and you have to build an ecosystem in every place of the value chain as well. So we really value building a big ecosystem for our partners, for our customers, sorry. So let's dive a little bit into intelligence everywhere, and in particularly where we go with the edge. So Google has been known and is known today for a lot of the ML and AI innovation and the tools that we're providing. In this conference, you've heard about BigQuery ML, you've heard about Auto ML coming out, you've heard about, probably about Cloud ML Engine. I mean, all those tools that we're building to really democratize AI and democratize ML for our customers, really trying to bring all that power to our customers. And this is particularly true in image recognition, for example, with AutoML Vision. That's a very impressive tool that you can get to use very quickly without being really a data scientist. So we've been glad this morning actually to introduce our Cloud IoT Edge. There is actually another session tomorrow morning at 9:30 that drills into IoT Edge. This is really listening to our customers saying, I love your AI, but I have some constraints at the edge that I can't really use your cloud platform to do that. Sometimes my internet connectivity is down in the case of Aker BP. Sometimes it's boats that are going, they can't be connected. Sometimes it's because the bandwidth constraint. You heard about LG this morning. They're taking pictures, like hundreds of pictures all the time. They can't send all those pictures to the cloud to do the inference and come back. They have to do it on site. Sometimes it's compliance. You have to get the data, you have to leave the data on site, and you can't send it outside of your premise. And there's a lot of reasons why Edge makes total sense, and we're really trying to bridge between cloud and Edge together. So Cloud IoT Edge is actually two components. One is our Edge ML component, which is a runtime to run TensorFlow Lite model. And to get a TensorFlow Lite model, you take a TensorFlow model that you train, maybe with Cloud ML, with ML Engine, or with Cloud TPUs in the cloud, and you will compile that model for you into a TensorFlow Lite model and send it to the device. How do we send it? We have Edge IoT Core, which manages the security, the connectivity with the cloud, all the local processing, local storage, anything you need, you would expect as an edge device, that's handled by Edge IoT Core. This is in alpha right now. There's an early access program that you can sign up for today to get access to this. This runtime can run on Android Things, which is a fully secure and managed OS. So that's a full OS managed the same way you would manage an Android device or phone, except it's for things, so it's been optimized. And we're also going to support Linux OS as well. And the big announcement was the hardware accelerator. So Edge ML will support, obviously, standard CPU, general purpose CPU, or GPU, or our Edge TPU. So Edge TPU was probably the most exciting thing. I don't know if you followed the news a little bit. There were so many tweets. I was like, whoa, this is actually pretty impressive. So people tend to like it. So you're seeing a little bit of the size here. You can fit 4 or 5 of them on a coin. Very small. Edge TPU has been really worked in collaboration with the AI research team, our software team, and the hardware team together to really bring a very purpose-built hardware for inference of machine learning models. So it's really that collaboration between the AI research and the hardware that make it possible, with a very big focus on performance per watt and performance per dollars, trying to make it cost effective so it can be everywhere, and trying to make it very low power so it doesn't consume a lot of power, and you can put it on smaller devices. You don't have to have big heatsink and things like that. So we really believe that this Edge TPU will transform just dumb data collectors into smart collectors and smart devices, and open up a whole range of new user applications. So this is really, really exciting. So the goal of Cloud IoT Edge, if I summarize, it's to enhance operational reliability, making sure it can work anytime. You don't have to worry about loss of connectivity. With IoT Core, you can really deploy those models to the cloud and to the edge, and apply them where you need them most in real time, very low latency. We always focus on security, obviously, for the secure connectivity with Edge IoT Core, and keeping it cost effective at any scale, because the more cost effective, the more there's going to be out there. We also thought about how do you marry edge and cloud in a very closed loop of learning. And that was very important to us. We didn't just release an edge product. We wanted to make sure that edge product is an extension of your cloud in a closed loop learning. So this is kind of a visualization of the data flowing into IoT Edge. You can do some learning here. You can do some inference here if you want. But you can send the data through IoT Core to the cloud, put it in a database of your choice or a data repository of choice, retrain your model with cloud TPUs potentially, then send that model back to the device through IoT Edge to have a local execution. So that closed loop is very important, because those devices are not static anymore. It's not just you send an ML model and you let it be. You'll improve it over time. Things can change. New problems can be detected with the images, and you need to be able to really effectively move those models, update those models through this life cycle. So we've seen LG this morning in manufacturing, very great use case. This is a $1 million saving per line. That's pretty impressive, just by putting that intelligence at the edge. In retail, you can think about hyper-personalization of offers. This is an augmented reality view where discounts could be given to you based on who you are and your purchasing habits. In automotive, collision avoidance, detecting if somebody's looking at their phone, that would be pretty neat. That would avoid a lot of accidents. There's a lot of traffic routing. There's a lot of application for ML. So those are just a few examples where we've seen traction with some of our customers. So if I show you, we showed you the little TPU. If I give you that little TPU today, you're going to be a little bit in trouble. You won't know what to do with it. So we created a little SOM that I have here. That SOM, it's a system on module. So it's a full module which has a quad-core CPU on it, has a Wi-Fi, has obviously a root of trust and a crypto from Microchip, and it has the Edge TPU, obviously. I'm not going to forget this one. So this is a sum that's production grade, so you can actually produce a lot of them. This will be available in October, so you can buy this in October and start playing with it. The other thing that we did, because same thing, if I give you this, you won't be able to do much, so we created that development board. This is our AIY team created the development board, so I can just slap this thing on it like this, and I clip it. I'm not going to do it. Oh, yeah, I did it. That was good. And then you have a full system, with gigabit Ethernet and USB-Cs and all the things, HDMI. You can connect a camera to it. You can GPIOs. You can really play with that thing and really get going. This also will be available in October for you to play with. So we also work with partners on the Edge TPU side. So really working with semiconductor vendors and some of the device analytics vendors to leverage the Edge TPU into solutions for our customers. So some of those partners here are building either gateways or really leveraging the Edge TPU for their use cases. So we're trying to really kickstart that ecosystem of partners focused on Edge TPU and application of the Edge TPU for our customers and for you. So let's talk about scalability. Now that you're all excited about Edge TPU, you're going to have a lot of devices with intelligence. You're going to need some scalable infrastructure in the back end. So IoT Core was, as I said earlier, was really meant to be completely serverless. And you can start with one device connected and ramp up to millions of devices in production without really having to shard, having to plan for memory, CPU, anything. It's just everything is done for you, and you're just going to pay as you go. And this allows you to go from POCs to pilot to a small deployment to your production really with no effort. And that's really a big game changer, we think, in terms of how it helps you in your digital transformation journey. So we innovated in the edge. Obviously, we also kept innovating on the IoT Core itself. And those are some of the features. Some are beta. Some are a little more early. For example, the Cloud IoT provisioning service. That's an early access. So this one is about enabling you to onboard and provision literally millions of devices without having to go one by one and provision them. So if you're buying a bunch of crypto, for example, with Microchip, you buy all those cryptos, they're going to give you a real ID and some information. You're just going to put that in the Cloud IoT provisioning system, and all those IDs will be moved to your account, so you don't have to do that manually. We did things like Gateway, which is a way to pass through the authentication of IP or non-IP devices, pass that authentication to the cloud directly. So the gateway is not the proxy for all. You really authenticate the devices behind the gateway, even though they may not be IP devices. So that's an interesting one. We do groups. We do high-speed messages to the device. If you need 100 messages per second down to the device, we can do that now. And we added some extensive logging capabilities to debug your system. So a lot of features. We're going to keep going like that throughout the rest of the year and next year. This is kind of the core system being improved. Now I would like to welcome another customer that is really changing the game in farming. So John Friedman from Frayed Farm. Frayed Farm, you all know about Airbnb disrupted hospitality. We kind of view Frayed Farm as disrupting the agriculture. So I'm happy to welcome Frayed Farm. I think before we start, we're going to see a video.
That's right.
So I don't know if I click for this or not. No? Excellent. Well, thanks and welcome, John.
Yeah.
So tell us more about Frayed Farm.
Yeah, sure, happy to. I did notice a few people kind of look at their session description. I know you're dealing a lot with containers as it relates to the GCP.
That's true.
This is a little bit different container, so you're going to be finding out about that today. But we use that as a pivotal piece of our infrastructure. We feel that shipping containers and IoT are actually great building blocks for the next level of food. We're looking to lower the barrier of entry for anybody who's trying to get into farming and make food supply a lot more accessible. So getting into this, we started looking at the data. But we were surprised to find there's not a lot of data in agriculture. In one of the biggest industries in the world, really hard to find consistent data to build around. And the reason for that is, there's a few reasons for that, actually. One, there's not a lot of environments that are exactly the same. So if you have a farm in one place of the world and another farm halfway across the world, the results they're getting and the things that they're doing, they're not going to match up.
Yeah,
so
consistent, yeah.
So all that data is very siloed. Another reason is, as farms have been consolidated over the years, that generational knowledge hasn't been passed down. So we're in a very centralized global food supply system, and the things that have been leveraged are the crops, the chemical, and the genetic attributes of the crops have been really focused on. And the ones that have been prioritized are the ones that can withstand things like drought, are resistant to pests, and they can travel really far and hang out on the shelves for a long time. So you notice I didn't really say anything about taste or variety or flavor or anything like that. So if you are a chef and you're looking to get a unique thing on your menu and you want to make a dish that's just very signature to you, that's going to be a really hard task with our current food system.
Yeah.
If you're in sourcing or you're in any type of food business where you're trying to bring innovation to it, it's going to be very difficult for you to get something that's only grown in a specific part of the world shipped all the way to you in the quantity that you need. So it's very familiar to minimum order quantities you see in global manufacturing. So what we were inspired by was actually 3D printers and that technology and how that shifted a segment that really couldn't get into the game of prototyping or small run manufacturing, and put that in their hands so a lot more innovation could happen.
Right.
So that's where we came in and said, hey, is there a way that we can build a platform that's accessible to everyone, uses some infrastructure that already exists in the world that everyone has some logistics support for, that's the shipping container, and IoT, which allows us to get a lot of that transparency and traceability that everyone's looking for.
Yeah. So tell us more about IoT then.
Yeah.
How is that helping?
So IoT is what creates those environments in the farm. So it's Internet of the environment for us, right? When our customers are looking at the farm, they're looking at all the components that make up the perfect scenario inside the unit. So let's say you're just getting started. The IoT is going to be what basically sets the environment around a certain crop attribute and heightens that across the way. So let me give you an example. If you are looking into IoT as a way to orchestrate all the different components, you can, in any environment, create an environment that's halfway across the world. So we have customers in Puerto Rico, Dubai, Detroit, all over the place. And inside that farm, it's the perfect day of summer every day of the year. It's a very unique environment in there. We can also create environments that are not of this world with IoT. So you could take the nutrients composition of Italy, and you can match that with the air quality of Salinas Valley, pair that with the CO2 density that would be next to an active volcano, as well as giving the plant the light spectrum that it really wants.
I really want to taste that lettuce now.
Don't you? So IoT is a really essential piece for us to build these environmental recipes to match what's out there in the world, but also to create things that aren't of this world.
So your customers, the chefs or the farmers,
Yeah.
They use a mobile app to do all that?
That's right.
Can you show us maybe what you have here?
Yeah, I'll give you a little.
Let's pray the demo god a bit. I don't know if it would.
Let's see. It looks like it's casting.
So can we cast on the screen? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So what are we seeing here? That's a real farm, right?
That's right. So I will keep it upright for this demo. So this is what any farmer who's bought a leafy green machine, that's what a Frayed Farm is called, they would see this no matter where they are in the world. Inside the farm, they might use it as their remote control. Okay. So if they wanted to turn something on and off really quickly, they're going to use this same app. So let's, for instance, this is actually a live farm in Boston, Massachusetts right now.
Okay.
This is at our headquarters. So let's go ahead and we're going to turn on the lights. So all the devices are connected. We're just going to, beautiful. We just turn that on. And now if we do a quick refresh, we should see the lights start to turn on in succession. You'll also notice that the front lights are linked to the back right lights, the front left lights, and the back left lights. So that ability to pair, link, and create relationships within the farm is all within their fingertips.
Wow.
We can also set programs and
Like
timers
recipes,
around that.
right? Yeah.
We do call them recipes, yeah. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Now let's say I've turned a few things on and I really like kind of what I got growing there, but I want to track kind of what that's doing to the rest of the farm. So you can pull up your historical analysis and see what effect maybe one of the things that you've turned on has on another thing in the farm. So that's great because you can really start to tune the balance of things based on your needs.
Excellent.
So you'll be able to look at things like water temperature, pH, the amount of nutrients that are in the water, CO2 in the air, humidity, temperature. And there's a whole range of devices that you can pair, create dependencies around, put on timers, things like that. So let's say I'm really happy with what I got here.
Cool.
I'm going to go over to the program section. These are all of the things that you can map out. Different dosing schedules, different lighting timers, set different day and night times. And then you can save that recipe. You can save that recipe as a unique thing for you, or maybe you want to get another farm that's halfway around the world. Say you're a chain restaurant and you want to have a unique lettuce on your bun. That can be something that you save and port to all of your farms. But you can also pull from a community of recipes that other farmers have created, or we have created for you to improve your performance of your farm. So actually, last year, we developed a recipe to improve the efficiency of all models all the way back to 2015 and updated all those farms at once.
Nice, nice.
So with this and with Cloud IoT, we see this as a way that we can continuously improve these farms over time, use machine learning tools to basically do this updating for us and always choose the best path.
Excellent. Wow. John, this is awesome. Thank you very much for your trust.
Thank you.
Thanks. Let's talk about security now. Security is almost my favorite project. That's where I started my career, actually. So I've always been keen on having great security for us. And at Google, we take security obviously very seriously, and trying to look at it from the ground up. The Google Cloud Platform itself is built from the ground up with security in mind, and IoT Core is built on top of that platform. So we really try to think about security from an end-to-end standpoint. You're going from the devices, the connectivity, the edge, the platform itself, and the application. But today I really want to focus more on the device side rather than the cloud side. By now you probably have seen a lot of session around that. And one thing we've done differently when we launched IoT Core is the way you authenticate devices to the cloud. We use what we call a JSON token. So I mean, we don't call it, it's a standard. It's a JSON Web Token. It's pretty common to authenticate against APIs. So we use a JSON token to do the authentication of the device to the cloud. The cloud is authenticated through a standard TLS session, but then the device uses a JSON that it signs with a private key and authenticates itself with a corresponding public key in IoT Core. It has the same level of security as a TLS mutual authentication, but it has a lot of benefits. It has no dependency on the TLS stack. It's very small in footprint. You can easily upgrade your TLS stack without disrupting your application. And it can also authenticate non-IP devices, because non-IP devices can create a JSON, pass it to our gateway, and send it to cloud for authentication. So a lot of really good benefits. And actually, to demonstrate the power of this, we have partnered with Microchip to release actually what is fundamental in IoT. This is the first 8-bit MCU that is securely cloud connected. Yes, this is the first 8-bit MCU that is cloud connected. This is really a revolution, because 8-bit has been there for many years, 15, 20 years. People have been buying 8-bit. People know what they are. They're cheap. They're really available. But until now, everybody was saying, oh, no, for IoT, 32-bit, let's go big, let's go big. Well, actually, you don't need to. you can take this 8-bit, and because our stack is so small, because you use a JOT token to authenticate devices, that entire JOT authentication can be handled by a crypto that's on there. And the whole TLS is in the Wi-Fi module itself. So because it's so small, it fits in there. If you use mutual auth, you cannot do that. So this is only kind of Google specific, if I wish, if I can. So this is really a cool thing. This is going to come probably around October. Will be available around October for you to purchase. But this will really put IoT everywhere very securely, which is super important. So finally, let's talk about our ecosystem. We talked about the ecosystem of Edge partner. That's great, but there's really a lot of partners that we want to work with. One noticeable ecosystem that we like, in May this year, we actually announced that we joined the LoRa Alliance. We really like that connectivity layer. So we're working with partners like the Thing Networks or Obgenius in France or My Devices, all really good partner in the LoRa space. That's something we really like, and we're going to pursue our effort into. But we really look at partners across the entire spectrum, from device partners to application partners to service partners, to really serve end-to-end solutions to our customers. So this is just a sample of some of the incredible partners we have, and we're really happy to support. Our goal is to make our partners successful so our customers are successful, and that's really key to our strategy when we partner. So now I want to bring Jen Bennett. Jen Bennett is part of our office of the CTO, and she's been working with many customers, helping them in their digital transformation. And so Jen's going to talk about a few customer use cases and how she's trying to create an ecosystem of businesses, actually. So Jen, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's great. Thanks to our customers. So, Anthony mentioned that there's a number of industries that are being transformed by IoT. And to be honest with you, there's not a customer that I've talked to that hasn't been thinking about or embarking on a journey in IoT. So it is transforming all industries and across the business, from customer engagement to product lifecycle management to risk management and even operational efficiencies and effectiveness. So it's really this idea of transformation within the industry. And as we think about that, this is really a catalyst for new business opportunities, this IoT data. And not only that, creating ecosystems that can leverage the data in new ways to drive new value. So why you embark on an IoT journey may be for one particular reason, but then that data starts to become invaluable in a number of different business cases. And so this idea of democratizing data is really, really key to the future of IoT. Let's look at an example. So this is a customer of ours. So Midas out of Europe, not too dissimilar to Midas here in North America, provides automotive services to their customers. And they do this across a number of European countries. But with the growth of the connected car, they could see that their market was being disrupted. And in their words, they said, we had an opportunity to be daring, to disrupt ourselves and become part of this connected ecosystem. And so Midas partnered up with Z, who provides an OBD2 dongle that attaches to the vehicle to provide data from the vehicle. And then they partnered up with a Google Cloud partner, TellMe+, who specializes in building machine learning models. And these machine learning models that they built were all around predicting failures. In this particular case, they started with battery failures. You're in your vehicle, you go to start it, it doesn't start. Not a delightful experience. So again, Midas partnered up with Z, who partnered up and created this ecosystem with TellMe+ to build a machine learning model that could take this data from the vehicle and predict battery failures. Of course, this is only the start. There's many other things that they're going to do, but what this enabled them to do was to become a driver companion to their customer. So now they've built an app that can provide information about the maintenance schedules, that can provide information about predictions on what might be coming and happening. It can also provide geolocation information and many other things in the future. They've become the driver companion and part of the ecosystem. Of course, they're looking to roll this out to about 100,000 customers, but it doesn't stop there. This data, you can imagine, can be leveraged for them to drive down their operational costs managing their inventory. Having that spare part available before you even get there. I don't know how many of you have taken your vehicle in only to find out they didn't have the part you needed. It just happened to me recently. And then not only that, but who else could value from this data? The OEM, the vehicle manufacturers, all this plethora of data that they can now leverage to understand their customer better. It's an ecosystem. It's an ecosystem built on data. I'd like to welcome up John Hurd from Smart Parking, CTO of Smart Parking. Maybe he can shed a little bit more insight on another example, all related to smart cities. So John, welcome.
Thank you, Jen.
Maybe give us a brief overview of what you do with smart parking.
Yes. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And let me just tell you a little bit about smart parking. We're a company based out of Melbourne, Australia, but we have offices in New Zealand where we do our development, and we have sites in 17 countries around the world where we are about reinventing the parking experience for you, for various customer experiences. So there are the customer experience for the enforcement officer. I know you hate them, but making their lives efficient and much, much more effective. Changing the experience of finding a car park that's in a city, so that you know that a car park is just round the corner. You don't need to keep driving round and round looking for that car space that may not be there. We also provide payment and interaction for allowing you to do payment for your parking right there from your smartphone, or also connecting to your existing infrastructure, the payment machines on the streets. And by the way, we do both on the road parking and also off-street parking in multi-stories. And so where you see some car parking spaces where they have the red and green guidance lights, that's the sort of stuff that we do around the world.
Great. Maybe tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that led you to partner up with Google.
Good question. As we have been starting to talk more and more with our customers, we're seeing a change in the conversation that we're having with our customers. It's no longer just about parking. It's actually about how do we change the city experience? How do we make our lives within our environments more effective and efficient? And parking, because it's actually a well understood, we know about paying for our parking, it pays for that initial establishment of the IoT infrastructure for a city. And so what we're seeing is that smart parking is actually deploying and delivering the initial pillar or tent pole, which enables a city to start to broaden their intelligent services within the city. So it reaches out into other things, such as public broadband and smart rubbish bins or garbage bins, smart street lighting, and so on. It's essentially unlimited. But that required us to look at the characteristics of what that type of information now requires. We need to connect to anything, because if that central gateway on the street lamppost is doing parking, it's also now going to need to connect to other things. And so we needed a new class of system that was not just about parking, not just about just dealing with those transactions for parking, but essentially connecting to anything, communicating with anything, and then processing that information in smart ways, which are not just about parking, but for smart cities.
Talk to us a little. We've talked a lot about Edge. Talk to us a little bit about Edge and your thoughts on this new opportunities at the Edge.
Yeah, Edge is really critical to our real world. As we know, sometimes when you try to make a phone call, you can't connect. Sometimes when you have really time-dependent things, the time it takes to do a communication transaction to a back-end computer, cloud system may be too long. An example is we process many thousands of images per day, and we recognize the number plates of cars. And that number plate is used to raise a barrier arm because you've pre-registered, for example, to go into that car parking lot. Now, if that barrier arm does not open within about 2 seconds, you're starting to create a queue of vehicles outside that parking space. And that really becomes critical, especially at 10 to 9 in the morning when you need to get into the office. Well, more importantly, it creates congestion also. So the edge computing, just one example of how the edge computing is really critical, is to do that processing in real time right there where you need that information. And that edge computing needs to be quite intelligent as well. And that's actually what we're so excited about the edge TPU capabilities, because we can start to do a whole variety of intelligence right at the edge to guarantee real-time latency.
Yeah, no,
that's just one example.
Fantastic. You know, I was talking to a retailer, and you know, they always think about inside the four walls. And I said, you know, one of my biggest frustrations is finding a car spot. So when I talk about ecosystems, it's like, how can we take now that smart parking that navigates you through that journey that you do in a day,
yeah.
You know, whether you're parking to go into a building or going to the store, right? So this ecosystem, and you know, I know that you probably face this quite a bit. It's really about how do we start to enable these ecosystems.
Exactly. You know, it was interesting. John just commented about, you know, the Internet of Farm, and I was just thinking as he was speaking, we're creating the Internet of Parking for you. That's what we're doing, and actually. That's the mission that I feel very passionate about. We're reinventing that experience. And it's an experience that we currently live with, and it sucks. And so the opportunity here of not just the parking and changing that dynamic, but making it more cohesive and more personalized to what I'm trying to do. It's not just about parking. Usually I'm parking there for some other reason. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm trying to get to a store, I'm trying to get to the office, or I'm trying to do something else. And it's an inconvenience right now. And that's what our mission is to actually change that.
You guys have been a tremendous partner. We thank you for your partnership, and thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Jen.
Yeah. So, you know, as we think about connected things, you know, one of the things that's really critical in IoT is this idea of location intelligence. And Anthony mentioned Google's, you know, we've done a lot with connected things, but it's no surprise, I'm sure, that we have a lot of work into location intelligence. So if we take, you know, the very best of maps and routes and places, and we start to apply it to things like asset tracking, or perhaps efficient routing for some of the most complex fleet itineraries, tracking or visualizing your connected assets. Most importantly, no matter where they are, all around the world, right? This is geolocation, both inside and outside, geocoding, distance matrix, real-time traffic, real-time road conditions, all at your fingertips. Such a key asset to the ecosystem of IoT, and we're very, very proud of the work that we've done in collaboration with our Maps team as well. So no matter what you're tracking, you know, this solution, this integrated solution can really help you start to manage your bottom line, grow your top line, and manage the risk as well. Let's look at a few examples. So Vagabond is a company that provides technology and operations for the food and beverage service industry, so vending machines. And they embarked on this journey of an IoT solution where they connected vending machines, getting information about stock, getting information about the cash in the vending machine. But what they were really looking for to combine with that was this idea of precise geolocation. And you can imagine these vending machines may not always be in the easiest places to locate. It could be in the third floor dormitory, or it could be in a back alley, right? So this idea of having world-class geolocation was really, really critical. And now they can overlay that vending machine information on precise location so that their drivers can be very efficiently routed for restocking activity. And they've been able to drive some tremendous improvements in terms of both the top line growth as well as managing their bottom line and theft. So theft has been reduced about 15% off the top line. So some really great example. Another example is a company out of Australia called FleetMinder. And they provide vehicle and asset tracking solutions in about 12 countries. And really what they wanted to do was be able to visualize the location of these vehicles and combine it with some of their GPS technology that they have, giving dispatchers not only location information, but really optimized routes. And so you can actually see now even the real-time surrounding information and really start to drive a whole lot of use cases. For example, being able to understand maintenance activity and where the closest maintenance shop would be for that driver. Some really great results from FleetMinder, about a 50% decrease in overtime, which if anybody who's been in the trucking industry, this is a huge problem and a huge cause of turnover is their time away from home. So some incredible efficiencies that have been gained through doing some of these things, not to mention really reducing the incorrect deliveries. So this has been really game-changing in terms of their business value. So we talked about IoT delivering new insights. Anthony mentioned intelligence. We talked about intelligence at the edge. We've talked about scalability and really taking the opportunity to drive new business. And we talked about how IoT is enabling an ecosystem. I'd really like to pull all those pieces together with you and share a video. So can we roll the video, please?
West Oakland is surrounded by 3 major freeways, and it is downwind of the Port of Oakland, which is the 5th largest port in the country. The community is a real blend of land uses. There's warehouses next to homes, and it's only been recently, in the past half century, that we've realized that this is a bad layout for public health.
We have had clusters of cancers related to respiratory problems.
What makes airborne pollutants so dangerous is that they are not always visible to the human eye. EDF and Google brought together other partners to collect, measure, and analyze air pollution data in Oakland.
So Google brought in Acclima, who equipped our Street View cars with their Acclima Environmental Intelligence platform, which captures scientific-grade air quality measurements.
What we've done is miniaturized basically an air quality laboratory into the car, so it's able to provide high-quality measurement at fast time resolution.
EDF partnered with academic scientists to analyze the data that we received from the Google Street View cars. The measurements and analysis have shown elevated levels of black carbon and nitrogen oxides in Oakland. These types of air pollutants typically come from the burning of fossil fuels, cars, trucks, and other industrial sources.
We're really beginning to see in much higher detail what the air we breathe on the ground in the neighborhood looks like.
We hope this new data can empower local communities and community groups to advocate for cleaner air.
So you can see quite an ecosystem already being formed around collection of data from vehicles in air pollution. But this ecosystem is growing even more. In May of this year, Kaiser joined into the ecosystem. And now what they've done is take that data and combined it with electronic medical records from residents who live in this area and did a study around how that is impacting, a block-by-block analysis of the health risks from air pollution, the most detailed analysis of its kind. So we're really, really proud of this partnership, this ecosystem that's forming to solve new problems, to solve old problems with new approaches. Really, really thrilled about this. So, you know, if you want to learn more about IoT, we have a breakout session tomorrow in the morning. Anthony mentioned this about the IoT Edge. We have a showcase on the, we have an IoT area in the showcase in Moscone South, but we also have a lot of information online, and I encourage you to go there and check it out. With that, our session will be completed. I'd ask for you to provide any feedback in the mobile app, and I hope and thank you for joining us. Once again, I'd like to thank John from Frayed Farms. I'd like to thank John from Smart Parking, and I'd like to thank Jarton from Acre BP. Tremendous customers, tremendous partners, and I hope you guys have a great rest of the next event. Thanks so much for coming.